Hi, everybody. Welcome to Rachel's Reviews. And today we are talking about the big night of cinema. We're talking about the Oscar nominations that were handed out on Tuesday morning. And I am film critic Rachel Wagner, and Conrado is here.
Yes, he is. How's it going, Rachel?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I am good. I'm very happy to be here as it's become a tradition talking about
Yeah.
the Oscar nominations with you.
Yeah, we have fun doing this every year. And I feel like, personally, this is a pretty good year. I mean, there's not that many movies that I'm like super passionate about, but there's also not that many of these nominees that I'm like, what? What were they doing?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a step up from last year, in my opinion. I
Yeah.
don't know if you remember. I here last year it was a little depressing. Our call. I was very much kind of like, I think cinema is dead. I don't know what's gonna happen. I have lost interest in the Oscars almost altogether. But this year, cinema is back, baby,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
a lot of really good movies on the list. A couple that I haven't seen yet, but I think it definitely revived my interest, which I
Yeah.
think is nice.
Well, there's one big one that I haven't seen we'll talk about, but for the
Hmm.
most part, I've seen most of the nominees because I tried to watch most of the contenders before various groups that I vote in and things. But
Hmm.
but yeah, I mean, the as far as overall, like I said, overall I was pretty pleased. But I think the biggest thing that I was excited about is to see Flea get nominated for all three categories it was eligible in. That was exciting. I did not expect
Hmm.
that, especially documentary, because that branch is usually pretty wonky and disappointing.
Yeah.
So the fact that they would go with something that's like a little bit edgier, a little bit different, was
Flea,
very, very surprising to me.
which is a documentary. I haven't seen it, but it's an animated documentary
Hmm.
from, I think, from Denmark
Yeah.
about a Syrian refugee. Is that right? Or a refugee of some kind,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I thought it was Afghani, but it's been a while since I
Afghani.
saw
Okay.
it. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. You probably
refugee.
know better than me.
Yeah.
So that's very exciting because it got nominated in all of those three categories. So it could potentially, although I would say it's probably unlikely, but it could, in theory, win
Yeah.
Best International Feature, Documentary Feature, and Animated Feature, which would
Yeah.
be, historic, and it would make for exciting television, I
Uh-huh.
think.
Yeah, I think it's unlikely most to win international feature when you've got another one nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah, that's the one that I think is going to be the toughest one.
Yeah.
But even if it wins 2 out of 3, I think it would still be kind of
Yeah.
like
Oh, yeah.
historic, right? And
I mean, yeah,
unprecedented.
and if it were to win, we'll talk about animation later, but if it were to win that, I mean,
That would
that
also
would
be a
be
big deal. Yeah.
to beat three Disney films. That would be very, very big. But nevertheless, to have it get nominated for three
Hmm.
categories was
Yeah.
very exciting to me. And
And
it's
on
a
that,
great film. I would be shocked if you didn't like it.
like it.
Yeah.
It seems the reason I haven't seen it is because it looked pretty heavy, like very, very
Yeah.
emotional and very serious. So it's been kind of hard to say, like, okay, now I'm gonna watch this, like, probably very
Mm,
harrowing and serious movie, especially when we're still dealing with some stressful stuff and whatever,
yeah, that's true.
Um, so that's one
But I
of
would say
yeah.
it's heavy inspiring, not heavy discouraging. You know what I mean? Like you leave feeling inspired by the
That's
end
good
of
to
it.
know. That's good to
Yeah, yeah,
know.
yeah.
I would say along those lines that for me, the biggest kind of positive or that I saw in the nominations outside of like individual stuff is
Hmm.
going along with Flea, how it really seems like the Academy and the Oscars are becoming more international, or there's a lot of international movies getting nominated in top categories in a way that I feel like was kind of harder in the past, or that it shows like some kind of change of
Hmm.
movement. Obviously Parasite a couple years ago really opened the
Yeah,
floodgates for that, and it's exciting to see. It's to see a more diverse lineup in terms of country of origin and
yeah.
cinema all around the world.
That's true. That's true. Well, let's talk about the Best Picture nominations. We had 10 this year, which is kind of exciting
We're
because,
back to 10.
yeah.
It's the new norm. We were going between, it's
Oh,
supposed to be
9.
between 6 and 10, and it was usually 9 or 8, but now
Mm-hmm.
we're back to 10, and it seems like it's
Yes.
going to stay that way for a while.
I hope so. Why not? Why not celebrate as many as you can? That's what I figure, at least.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so we have nominated for Best Picture. We have Belfast, Coda, Don't Look Up, Drive My Car, Dune, King Richard, Licorice Pizza, Nightmare Alley, Power of the Dog, and West Side Story. Now, out of those 10,
Mm-hmm.
the only two that made my personal top 20 are Coda and West Side Story. So those
Mm-hmm.
are my favorite. I have not seen Don't Look Up. I put it
Uh,
off. I just didn't want to watch it. I really disliked Adam McKay's last movie, Vice, and
hmm.
that's been part of the reason I've been kind of hesitant
You know
to
what?
see it.
I also haven't seen Don't Look Up, so we're on the same boat there. We cannot comment on it. I've heard very mixed things about it. I've heard
Yeah.
from people who really hated it, from people who thought it was just okay, from people who were like, actually, it's not as bad as people were saying.
Yeah.
To be honest, I just feel like I have a lot of anger and anxiety regarding like the situation with climate change and all that stuff. So I think
Mhm.
that in the best case scenario, the movie's gonna make me just like tap into that anger and just be kind of pissed off
Mhm.
about the state of the world. And in the worst case scenario, it's gonna make me depressed about the state of the world. So I have been really hesitant to
Yeah.
see it because of that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So if you're listening and you've seen it, please put in the comments. We'd love to hear what you have to say
Mm-hmm.
about it. But I will watch it finally. It's really long too. That's also part of the
Oh,
reason I
really?
was like, yeah, it's like it's very long. And so that was another reason why I kind of put it off. Um the other one that I have to admit I have only seen it in parts is Drive My Car
Mm,
because I kept falling asleep. I didn't review it because I felt like I couldn't in good conscience because I
right.
fell asleep for quite a
Mm-hmm.
bit of it. And I was admittedly tired. I was trying to get all the movies in before the
Mm-hmm.
um the end of the um before we voted for HCA,
Right.
and it's a long movie and it is very slow.
It is. Yeah. Go ahead.
So that's where I'm at on that movie. I still have the screener, so I'm gonna try again.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's very long and slow.
I have I understand your situation. I also have mixed feelings about Drive My Car. On the one hand, so this is the movie that's, the big international movie. It's a Japanese movie that
Yeah,
um is kind of a critic's darling. It won a lot of critics
yeah,
awards all across the country, from New York and I think also from LA and all kinds of stuff. And that really raised its profile so that it's now a Best Picture nominee, and we will see it's also nominated in directing and writing. So it's the big kind of international breakthrough of the year, which I think it's exciting. Except I kind of like you, I don't really like the movie that much, and I don't really see what people are seeing in it. It's about kind of this theater director and his kind of his relationships
yeah.
and his past and his marriage and and
It's about I thought it was an actor.
he's an actor and a director.
Oh, okay.
And he
Yeah,
goes off to Hiroshima to direct this play. And listen, I went to school for theater. I spent a lot of time working in theater stuff,
yeah.
as an actor, as a director, and as a stage manager, as an assistant director. There's nothing more boring to me than being in a rehearsal room when I'm not the director or the actor. When you're just like sitting there watching people
Right.
work, I find that very, very boring. I've done that a lot of times throughout my life because it's been part of my education and my career. So this
Mm-hmm.
movie is full of that, and I just couldn't sit through that. I was just like, I don't know. This is like being back in school, back at work. It's not that interesting to me.
Yeah.
So I
Eh,
struggled with that a lot.
yeah. I mean, on one hand, it's really not surprising that it would be popular amongst
Actors.
actors. Yeah, because it's all about they love like the things like Birdman with the tortured actor, kind of a
Mhm.
stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I just found the pacing very sluggish. But
Yeah.
I
I agree. People
yeah.
love it, but I really don't know what people are seeing in it. I have to admit. Although I respect that there's might be something there that I'm just missing.
Hmm.
Because yeah, because
Yeah,
a lot of people really love it.
I will give it another shot. The only one of the 10 that I have reviewed that I didn't go fresh on is actually Nightmare Alley. I thought
Oh,
it
okay.
was really dull. I just didn't like the story. I didn't think it was interesting. I mean, it looked beautiful. You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
very impressive, of course. And I guess the acting is good, but I don't know. It just did nothing for me with the story.
I just watched it a couple days ago because it's now on streaming, and I kind of agree with you. I don't know. I think I might, if I were a Rotten Tomatoes certified critic, I might go like a soft fresh on it. I don't know. I'm kind of like on the fence about it as well, but I felt a certain kind of I don't know, like kind of like a airlessness to it. It was just all very kind of I don't know, like you're saying, it all looks very beautiful, but like the emotion wasn't quite there. I'm not sure if you agree with me about that.
Yeah.
There was something missing.
Yeah, I don't know. I just didn't think the story was very interesting. I couldn't even tell you anymore. I mean, it was a
Yeah.
while. I watched it in December,
Hmm.
but I couldn't even tell
I
you anymore what the
What
story
happens?
really
I
was.
thought the story was kind of interesting, but the way that it was told was just kind of like sucking.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a very, you know, it's obviously. I don't know if it's based on a book as well, but there's a older noir movie made out of it,
Yeah.
and it's kind of
Which I haven't
seedy,
seen.
with the carnival and all
Mhm.
that's kind of like twisted people, dark stuff. I feel like it could have benefited from being a little less prestigey and a little more down in the muck. Maybe
Mm,
maybe shorter, maybe more
definitely
exploitation-y.
shorter.
Could have helped. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. My friend Stanford, he saw the original. He was telling me, and then I think that makes it a little more rich experience because, you can kind of
You can
compare
compare.
what they're doing. So I'd like to do that one of these days. I didn't think it was awful. I just
Yeah,
didn't
I agree.
love it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. I agree.
Um.
I
Yeah. Go ahead.
my one that I went negative on. Most of the movies on this list, I have to say, the ones I've seen, some of them I liked better than others. There's only one that I loved really, but most of them I appreciated for the most part. The one that I really didn't like at all is Belfast, which is one of the
Oh,
front runners
you didn't like it, huh?
for the whole thing. No, I really didn't. I felt like it was kind of like Nightmare Alley. It just felt like it was very uninspired. I don't know. I mean, it feels weird to say because it's supposed to be based on like Kenneth Branagh's life growing up in Belfast and all that stuff, but it just felt all very generic to me. Like I didn't connect. The characters didn't feel like real people to me, more like archetypes. The kid I thought was so lack of personality. Like, I mean,
Ah,
compare that kid to the kid in Come On. That's a real, like, exciting, charismatic kid, a real character. This guy was just like kind of a blank slate. I don't know. I really struggled with that movie. But you liked it
interesting.
better, I assume, based on your
Yes,
reaction.
I did, and I thought he was so cute. I
He's
mean, it
cute,
didn't
but
make
kind of
my
in a
top
bland way, I
20.
thought. Wait, sorry, what did I say
It
again?
No, it didn't make my top 20 of the
Hmm.
year.
But
So
you thought it was good.
I did think it was really sweet. I enjoyed it. And it kind of reminded me of Cinema Paradiso. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah, but that's I feel like that's a better version of it. I feel like Belfast reminded me of other movies that did it
Mhm.
better, kind of.
I can see that. I can see that. Uh, I I had like a few which I felt like were more sort of nitpicks.
Hmm.
That kept it from my top 20. I Like there were just things the characters would do that I didn't
Yep.
feel like made a lot of sense. Like for
Yes.
instance, when he steals the dish detergent.
I was gonna say exactly the same thing, and the mom takes it back to the store.
Yeah,
Completely unbelievable that that woman would do that in that
yeah.
moment. Like
In the
it
middle of
took me
a
out.
looting riot, she's not going to
Yeah.
go back like that. That seemed crazy to me, but
Hmm.
I did think it was very sweet. That's the word I would use for it. The
Yeah.
Particularly anything between the the little boy and the grandparents was very sweet
Right.
and reminded me of going to
Of
movies with my
course.
grandparents. And when I was uh when I was 10, I got to do a special trip to see my grandparents, and they lived in California. We were in Utah, and we went and saw Home Alone. And that was one of, like, it's a foundation movie for me, the first comedy that I really, really laughed and loved.
Mm-hmm.
I just remember experiences like that, going to the movies with my
Right.
grandparents, and I felt like it tapped into kind of that that kind of nostalgia, I guess, very well. And I loved Jamie Dornan, and I thought he was so charming. And I would have probably nominated him for supporting. I thought he was really good.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not surprised that we don't see eye to eye on this movie. It does feel like a movie that is much more on your lane than mine. Like
Yeah.
sweet. I think you have a higher tolerance for sweet than I do, for sure. And the whole, grandparents angle, I feel like it's always something that speaks to you on a very
Yeah,
emotional
that is
level.
true.
So that's fair enough. That makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and I'm surprised because I was expecting you to say Dune.
Oh, I didn't love Dune, but there was some interesting stuff about it. I have to say it was mostly disappointing because I had heard so much about how Dune is this crazy thing that it's so, can't be turned into a movie. It's so weird. People are not going to like it. And then I saw it and it was just like Star Wars. And I was like, this is just what? This is the crazy thing that you guys were talking about? So that was a little disappointing.
Mm. Well, yeah, it was a big inspiration for Star Wars. It's probably one of
Right.
those things that maybe feels derivative, even though it was
Yeah.
previous
I
to
just
it.
didn't see what was so. Maybe the second part will bring the crazy stuff that people are saying is so
Mm.
weird to translate. But the first one, I just seemed like a blockbuster to me, like any other. I really didn't see what was so strange about it.
Yeah, I mean, I went mild fresh on it. Like, it was not, I didn't love the movie, but I do feel like, I mean, I appreciated it more than I loved it, I guess I would say. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like there's you can't make a better Dune than, I mean, this is the story. And so, like, if I mean, it's hard to fault something for being what it is, like, I just
Sure.
don't see how anybody could make a better version of Dune than what they did. Um
And I have to
it's
say, I haven't
just,
read the book, so that could
yeah.
also be a thing of like I didn't. My expectations maybe were a little um, skewed a certain
Yeah.
way based on what people had said.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the biggest sort of sci-fi person in general.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, I just felt like they did the best job they could with what they had
All
to
right.
work with. So I give it a 6 out of 10. So
Okay. So that's
anyway,
most. We've talked about
um
half of them.
yeah,
Should we just go through all of them really quickly?
yeah, so what about Coda? Did you see that?
I
What do you
haven't
think?
seen that. That's another
Oh,
one that I
okay.
haven't seen. My mom liked it though.
It's really, it is pretty sweet. It's very charming, heartwarming.
It's about
So,
a woman or a girl who's the child of deaf adults, right?
yeah.
That's what CODA stands for.
Yes. And she wants to be a singer, but
Ah.
obviously that's something that her family can't connect with. And she also, her family kind of leans on her because uh, she's the one in the family that can hear. And so then
Mm-hmm,
they run a
mm-hmm.
fishing operation. And so the idea of her kind of going to Berkeley for school is hard on the
Right.
family because they need
Oh, I
her.
see. I see. I can
Yeah.
picture what kind of movie this was. A Sundance movie too, right? Last year was like
Yeah.
one of the big Sundance winners.
And they did a great job, and Flea also did a great job with they had Coda at every single festival. They didn't just
Mm,
release it at Sundance and kind of let it stay there, but they released it
right.
at South by Southwest. They released it
Yeah.
at TIFF. I don't know if they were at some of the European ones, but anyway, they
Hmm.
released it a lot. So they kept it in,
Yeah.
and same thing with Flea. They kept it in people's
Right.
mind.
Well, clearly worked out in terms of Oscar nominations and award season in general. When it started popping up at the, the some of the other awards, I was a little bit surprised. I was like, oh, people really love this
Mhm.
Coda, which I had heard about, but I hadn't pegged as one of the big contenders this year. But it really seems to have a lot of love, and people are excited about
Yeah,
it.
it's a very crowd pleasing film. It's a very
Great.
crowd pleasing film. I wouldn't be surprised if it does pretty well, because the way that it's one the way that the system is now, it's not about necessarily who gets the most votes. It's about who gets ranked
Oh,
highest the
right.
most,
The
right?
preferential ballot. Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's a preferential ballot for best pictures. So sometimes a kind of like maybe consensus choice, like some one that is like a lot of number 2 or number 3 ranked can
Yeah.
actually etch out the win. So yeah, I could see that happening. I could see that happening with Coda.
Mhm.
I certainly think there's some other categories where it could also surprise with
Yeah.
a win. We can talk about that
Yeah.
later.
Okay.
Um,
So King Richard, uh,
King Richard, yeah.
yes. So this I think is another crowd pleasing film. I enjoyed
Mm-hmm.
it. I just felt like I kind of wished the movie had been about the girls and not about the dad. But
Oh,
it,
interesting.
I don't know. I felt
Okay.
like he wasn't that interesting of a character. Where I wanted to hear kind of what
Yeah.
their motivation was. Did they even like playing tennis? I guess they did,
Mm.
but we never really know what much
Yeah.
from their point of view.
It's a little tough because obviously the movie is made with the supervision and from the Williams family, right? So
Hmm.
this is the movie about
Yeah.
Serena and Venus Williams and specifically their dad Richard, and how they kind of like became pro tennis players. And so it's a very, approved official story version of the story. So um there's not a lot of although the movie does a has its moments of like showing different sides of the characters, what's complicated about Richard Williams as a character and how
Hmm.
he's like has his darker sides. But at the end of the day, it does feel like it's very also trying to protect and paint a specific picture of the family and their image. That being said, I did like the movie. The movie worked for me as an inspirational kind of like
Hmm.
sports story. I like the actors. I thought the Will Smith is good, and Angelou Ellis, who also got nominated, is good. And the girls who plays Venus and Serena are also really good. I thought a good ensemble. John
Hmm.
Berthel is good as their coach. I thought it was great acting, and
Yeah.
I love tennis too. I used to play tennis as a kid, so I also connected with that. So I had a good time with King
Yeah.
Richard.
I liked it. I just didn't love it. I
I
liked
agree
it
with
fine.
you about that. It would be like a, one thumb up instead of two thumbs up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so Licorice Pizza,
Yeah.
and I know this is one you loved.
This is the one of
I
the
liked
nominees
it.
that I love. This is the one movie from all the nominated that I really truly uh I really loved. I just really found it very special. I just
Mhm,
had a great time. I loved the performances by the two lead actors, Cooper Hoffman and
mhm.
Alana Haim. I thought they had great chemistry together. I don't know if we agree. I know that you're the chemistry. You're a chemist, and you're always thinking about the chemistry between the leads. I thought it
Yeah.
worked. I liked the characters. I thought they had a lot of personality. So yeah, so I loved it.
Mhm.
And I think you liked it, but you had some reservations, right?
Yeah, I mean, I just thought that anything with her was way better than anything with him,
With
and
him.
maybe I just didn't connect with it with him as much because I don't know, it just seemed a little bit crazy to me that like he's a teenager that starts
Hmm.
two businesses in one summer. Like it
Yeah.
just I don't know. I just felt like everything with her was so much more interesting. Like I really liked like the whole scene with her with the talent exec and
Great
her having
scene.
a Jewish
Yeah.
nose.
Hmm.
Great scene. Also I thought the whole scene and then the whole scene's anything to do with the councilman I thought was my
Oh
favorite
yeah.
part of the movie. I thought that was really good.
What about the driving the car down the hill? I thought that was also a
Mhm.
great
That was
sequence.
good. But some of the other stuff, like I thought that the whole Bradley Cooper stuff was like funny at first, but then it went on too long.
I actually
And
agree with you.
yeah.
I know a lot of people were into Bradley Cooper, and some thought that he might get nominated for it. And I have to say, I thought that was one of the weaker parts of the movie was the Bradley Cooper
Mhm.
performance.
Yeah, and even the Sean Penn as well. I thought that kind of started sort of novel and then went on too long. And I don't
Mhm.
know, just some of the water bed stuff was a little not as interesting to me.
Yeah, it's definitely um yeah, it has kind of like a bit of a hangout vibe that I
Mhm.
think it's not necessary I wouldn't expect to be your kind of thing. So I'm not super surprised that you didn't love it.
Mhm.
Yeah, because it has that kind of like, it made me think also of like how you, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, you were saying there was so much driving, and then that just kind of not your, that kind of like hangout vibe, it's not your thing. So yeah, so that makes sense.
That's true. Uh, yeah, but I mean, I still overall I gave it a fresh review. I
Mm-hmm.
think it had enough sort of um, chemistry and charming scenes that
All
I
right.
liked it. I mean, a lot of people have commented on the age difference. I didn't really
Mm-hmm.
feel that because he didn't seem like he was 15 at all to me, so it didn't
Yeah, it's also
bother
such
me.
a chaste relationship, and it's so, platonic in many ways. Even though
Mhm.
they're clearly attracted to each other, but also it's very innocent in many ways. So, and I think the movie, in my opinion, I mean, who am I to say? I think the movie did a good job of making her a very interesting, complex character, and I could see where she was coming from and why she
Mhm.
would do the things that she was doing. And I
Yeah.
and I think she's a great performance. I wish I was kind of sad that she didn't get nominated. I'm not surprised that she didn't because she was kind of a long shot. But I had a moment of thinking
Mhm.
like, oh, maybe she can do it, and that would be really great because
Yeah.
I think it might be my favorite performance of the year, Alana
Mhm.
Haim.
Yeah. All right. So then we have The Power of the Dog, and we talked about this extensively on the Criterion Project. So I'll put a
That's
link
right.
down if people want to listen to that. So, but I mean, this is a very beautiful movie. It's very atmospheric. I think the
Mm-hmm.
characters are very layered and
Mm-hmm.
interesting, hard to figure out.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Good
and
acting all around.
yeah, I thought it was a good movie.
I think maybe we will be on the same page about it. Tell me if you agree. A very well made movie, a very good movie, a very effective movie, but maybe not a movie that I quite loved and
Yeah,
connected
agreed.
with.
Yeah.
Um, I respect it a lot, but it's not one of my favorites, which is a little, in its way, while it's still really good, a little bit disappointing just because I'm a big fan of Jane Campion and I was really looking forward to this movie and to her being back in a kind of like a big way. And she's getting
Hmm.
nominated. She's the first woman, not to get into Best Director already, but she's
Hmm.
the first woman to get nominated twice for Best Director, and it looks like she will probably win, which would make her the third woman to win and the second in a row, because last year was Chloe
Oh
Zhao.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that would be great for her because she deserves it. I think she's a great director. So I would love it if it was for a
Mhm.
movie that I also loved, but I'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it is a well-directed film.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. All right, last one is West Side Story,
Hmm.
and we talked about on Criterion Project. We talked about the
The
original.
original, yeah.
Yeah, and we're gonna and we are going to have Jose back and talk about the this remake or new adaptation.
Yeah, knock on
Um,
wood. We haven't recorded that episode
hopefully,
yet, but
yeah,
it is in the book. So
hopefully,
hopefully, if everything goes right, we will have his opinion on
yeah.
the remake.
And I was very entertained by it. I kind of looked at it almost as going to a new revival on Broadway. Like
Mm-hmm.
in March, I'm going to see Funny Girl, the new Funny Girl revival. And I kind of felt like that same kind of thing. And uh, they made some differences, but nothing
Yep.
like huge. But I think in some ways it is better than the original. I think the singing is better, and I think the chemistry, to use my word, I think the chemistry is better than in the original,
Yeah.
uh, personally. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was great. I mean, I was very psyched when I got out of the theater, just having seen something so big and bombastic and beautiful music. And I'm a huge musical fan, so I thought it was good.
Yeah, I thought it was good as well. I had a couple of things that kept me from absolutely loving it, but it was a bit of a roller coaster for me. Some of the changes that they made especially in the script, which is by Tony
Hmm.
Kushner, and obviously Steven Spielberg directed it. Um, they try to make it like more realistic in some way, more gritty, more connected to the history of that New York neighborhood,
Mm,
which was uh, this what do you call it, like it was raced down so that they could build Lincoln Center, and a lot of people were
yeah, gentrified
displaced,
kind of.
gentrified. um so it felt like it was coming down to earth and to real world a little bit more than the original, which is feels more a little bit more fantasy, at least
Yeah,
to modern eyes. Maybe in the 60s it felt more realistic as well.
that's true.
But by doing that, I felt like it kind of like highlighted some of the things in the story proper that are kind of big, um, that you need to take into the fantasy. You need to buy into the fantasy to go along with them. Like, once, not to spoil it, but the way that what's her name, Maria acts after she learns of
Yeah,
Bernardo's death, and the way she her relationship with Tony is so fairy tale. It's Romeo and Juliet, and I think
yeah.
with this realistic approach, I was kind of like struggling with that a little bit. The in between the fantasy and the reality. That being said, everything that had to do with musical sequences I thought was fantastic. I had been hoping for Steven Spielberg to make a musical at some point, and I think on that level he did not disappoint me. I thought that the musical numbers were all around pretty great and really exciting. Uh, in supporting performances, Ariana DeBose and Mike Faist, I think, both do incredible job with some incredible music numbers. And so anytime there was that going on, I was completely swept into the world of like Hollywood magic. And then there were
Mhm.
other parts that I was maybe a little less so. So that's why I would say I liked it a lot, but it wasn't one of my favorites.
Yeah, I think we're pretty close actually. I did put it in my top 20.
Hmm.
Um,
And I think I would
but
as well if I had
yeah.
done a top 20.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on to actor in a leading role. We have Javier Bardem in Being the Ricardos, Benedict Cumberbatch in The Power of the Dog, Andrew Garfield in Tick Tick Boom, Will Smith in King Richard, and Denzel Washington in The Tragedy of Macbeth.
All
This is the
right.
only nomination, I think, for Tragedy of Macbeth,
I think
or
it got
in
a couple.
cinematography.
Yeah, it got a couple of technical awards. I think definitely cinematography, and I think it might have gotten a production or costume design, if I remember correctly. But definitely not a big showing, for sure.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I have to say, I'm about Tragedy of Macbeth the way that you are about Drive My Car. I watched the first 20-ish minutes of it. Um, Again, I went to school for theater. I've seen a lot of Shakespeare. Shakespeare is not my favorite, and I've had to sit through a lot of bad Shakespeare in my time. So I have my tolerance for Shakespeare is very low. Now, this movie looked like it was going to be very like visually exciting, and it was going to be different, and it had this whole like German expressionism look, and Joel Cohen, which I love the Coen brothers. So I was like, I'm going to give it a shot. I'm gonna watch some of it, and if by the 20-minute mark it's too much like regular Macbeth, I don't think I'm gonna sit through it. And it was a little bit too much like regular Macbeth to me, even though I appreciated what it was going for. It's just a personal thing.
Hmm.
I'm Shakespeare'd out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I'm not familiar enough with the original play to know, okay, they cut this out. Because it is an adaptation. It's not a line
Hmm.
for line. But I was pretty impressed by it. I liked it.
Yeah, it's
But
really well done. It looks
mhm.
beautiful,
Yeah.
and the acting's good. I think Denzel is good in what I saw.
Yeah, and Frances. I mean, I think they probably would have nominated her if she hadn't been nominated and won last year. I mean, she was quite good in it, I thought. Um, but yeah, not something that made my top 20 certainly.
Hmm.
Um, but of course, my number one movie of the year, Tick Tick Boom, the
Oh,
movie that
really? I didn't
captured
know it
my
was your
heart,
number one.
that I loved so much, that I've
Hmm.
watched so many times. We had a whole episode of the Female Film Critics panel where me and my friends just geeked out
About Tick
about
Tick Boom
Tick Tick Boom
and
because we
Andrew
love it
Garfield.
so much.
Yeah. So Tick
I,
Tick Boom, I thought
I
it had a
wish it
shot at a
had.
Best Picture
Yeah.
nomination, but it just I guess it didn't quite get the votes. Andrew Garfield though nominated for actor, and
And
surprisingly Best Editing also
yeah, that made me
nominated.
happy. I think that was very deserved because that editing was crucial, the way it mixed the Jonathan Larson story with the Tick Tick Boom performance. I thought
Yeah.
that was crucial in making the movie work. And
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
I think it deserved best editing. I love the movie. It just speaks to me as somebody who's trying to do something creative in my life and in my own little way. And I love Jonathan Larson, and so getting to see his
Mhm. Mhm.
story and all the Broadway cameos and I don't know. I just thought it was really moving, and it was the movie that connected with me the most in 2021. So
That's great. So I have to assume that if you were a voter, you would probably vote for Andrew Garfield in this category
yes,
then.
yeah. I mean, and also the not that we're giving impressions, but like if you look at the footage of Jonathan Larson
Mm,
uh, doing Tick Tick Boom, it is identical. I mean, Andrew Garfield captured him completely, and in my opinion, just gave a great performance. But
yeah.
compared to Javier Bardem, who looks nothing like Desi Arnaz,
Did we?
and did not capture that role at it. I mean, from watching the Lucy and Desi documentary at Sundance,
Mhm.
like,
Totally different.
yeah, it didn't capture it at all, in my opinion.
Yeah, not my favorite performance. I have to say, Andrew Garfield also has a beautiful voice. I didn't know that he was such a great singer, and I
First
think he
time
does a.
singing.
No, he sang before. I know this
No,
for a fact.
not in movies.
Not in movies, no, but in theater. Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
know this, but a friend of mine actually saw him in a production of, I can remember, I think it might have been Pippin or something, at
Oh,
one point when he was, before he was a big star. But they
mm,
saw it and he was like, "This guy is great. He's gonna be a
yeah.
star," and he was, obviously.
Oh, so
But
great.
but first time singing on film, which is why I also did had no idea that he was a singer, and he is so good at it. So I would
So
love to see
good.
him in more musicals. That's
Me too.
also for sure.
Me too. And
Um,
I don't know. I just loved the movie. So
mhm.
there we
So you
go.
would vote for him. Who do you think is gonna win?
Um, I think Will Smith is the favorite if you were
I
looking
agree with
at
that.
um but I don't think they've done that good a job of really like promoting it. I mean, he's no
King
Lady
Richard.
Gaga. Let's
Yeah, his campaign has been a little strange, and that made me think for a while. I had a theory that, it seemed to be like King Richard and Will Smith were slipping, and then there's Power of the Dog, which has Benedict Cumberbatch. He's kind
Yeah,
of a critical favorite, but he plays a pretty unlikable character. So I had a theory that Andrew Garfield was gonna take it in the end,
I would
but
die.
that would be yeah, it would be a great moment for you for sure. But I think without a Best Picture nomination, it's gonna be unlikely. I
Yeah.
think that hurts his chances. I think there's still a chance, but I do think that at this point, Will Smith has kind of come back as the favorite, and I think
Yeah.
maybe in the final stretch, he'll come out to the interviews and he'll pull it out.
Although, what's interesting, when we talk about Best Actress, none of those women are in films nominated for Best Picture, which is
So should we
interesting.
go? Should we just get into it then
Yeah,
for Best
so it's
Actress?
so it's Jessica Chastain, The Eyes of Tammy Faye, Olivia Coleman in The Lost Daughter, Penelope Cruz in Parallel Mothers, Nicole Kidman in Being the Ricardos, and Kristen Stewart in Spencer.
Before we say anything, you cannot convince me that The Eyes of Tammy Faye is a movie that exists and people have seen. Like, what? Where did this? Like, what are you talking about? I can't believe she got nominated, but I guess people do love Jessica Chastain, and she's been out there, defending Jeremy Strong and her fellow actors. So I'm not surprised that the actors kind of banded together to nominate her
Mm-hmm.
again. She's kind of nearing that kind of nominated but never winning kind of status, huh? Maybe.
I'm not sure how many. Is it just Zero Dark 30, or has she been nominated for others?
I think she got nominated for The Help as well, and maybe there's another
Oh,
there. But
okay.
she's kind of becoming like that kind of Amy Adams zone, right?
Yeah, I went fresh on The Eyes of Tammy Faye. It's not like a great movie, but I enjoyed it overall. It was very surprising to me how positive it was. I mean, I was just expecting going into it that it was going to be kind of a smear piece because
Mm,
I I don't know, usually Hollywood is really negative towards religious figures, and here's one who had a scandal attached to her. So I was expecting it to be pretty negative, but it was actually really positive, which very surprised me.
mm.
Um anyway, um
Okay, so
yeah.
I think we both agreed Chastain probably not gonna take it.
No,
Although it
this
is a
was
pretty
fun
wide
to
open category, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's kind of predicting Nicole Kidman, but
How do you feel about that? I know you
uh,
didn't love being the Ricardos, to put it
no,
lightly.
I didn't like it, and I don't know, I didn't love her performance. So I don't know. I'm not that thrilled about it, but she's a good actress, so whatever. It's just kind of sad that she'll be a dual Oscar winner for two super forgettable bland movies that nobody
Oh, really? You don't like The Hours?
I don't think so. Um
I
but
know some people who love The Hours, so I'm gonna just say for on the record that I know that you're out there, people who love The Hours and who think
in the
Nicole
comments.
Kidman. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I mean, Nicole Kidman, you're right. She is a great actress. It makes sense for her to have two Oscars, but maybe, yeah, not the performances that I would have picked probably if I had my choice.
Yeah. Yeah. I think if there's a surprise, Olivia Coleman, I think was probably another
Olivia
very unlikable
Coleman,
character though for the Lost
but
Daughter
a very likable
actress.
actress
Yeah.
that people really love, and all of a sudden she's, the category is kind of wide open for her to take it, and people,
Hmm.
people love Olivia Coleman, and I think she's great. I think the performance is good, even though I didn't love the movie. Um, and yeah, and it's strange because who else is going to win? Kristen Stewart in Spencer, that seems to have been like she barely,
Barely got nominated.
barely got nominated. The movie has kind of disappeared. Penelope Cruz for Pilot Mothers, an international nomination, an Almodovar movie. We've talked about him on Criterion Project as well, and I think
Yeah.
she's really good in it.
Yeah.
But I also have a hard time seeing her win. But I guess anything is possible. I guess I agree with you. Nicole Kidman seems like the front runner, and Olivia Colman would be my kind of dark horse. Maybe she'll take it in a
Yeah.
surprise.
For Lost Daughter, for me, I liked the Jessie Buckley part a lot better than the Olivia Colman part. Personally, I thought
Oh wow, so we're exact opposites then. I like the Olivia Colman part much better than the other.
that's funny. Well, I guess speaking of Jessie Buckley, she got nominated, and I love Jessie Buckley. I
A
just think
surprise
she,
nomination, really.
yeah,
Not a
for
lot of
best
people were
supporting role.
predicting her. But let's talk about that. The actress in a supporting role. We have
Yeah.
Jessie Buckley in The Lost Daughter, Ariana DeBose in West Side Story, Judi Dench in Belfast, Kirsten
Hmm.
Dunst in Power of the Dog, and Anjanou Ellis in King Richard. Now, a lot of surprising things here. I thought when I saw the nominations, I think most people expected if someone from Belfast was going to get in supporting actress was going to be Katrina Balfe and not Judi Dench.
Yeah.
So that was kind of surprising. But I guess the Academy just loves Dame Judi Dench. What are you going to do about
I
it?
mean, I guess has she been collectively forgiven for Artemis Fowl and Cats?
Oh, 100%. I mean, clearly they love her. I don't think people blame Judi Dench for Cats. I think there's other people to throw the blame around. I think Judi Dench came out of that pretty unscathed. And honestly, I thought she gave the best performance in Cats because her performance of that last song when she looks at the camera, it's just like Dame Judy
It's true.
committed to that, to the
Yeah, that's
Cats.
fair. Uh, but yeah, I mean, I love Jessie Buckley. I I love Wild Rose. That's one of my favorite movies of the last 10 years,
I think
and
that really
so
is the one big movie that I have to see to fully get Jessie Buckley because I hear from so many people that they love her and I think she's good, but I think Wild Rose really is the one that when you watch that is when you really get and love
yeah,
her forever. It seems to me.
that was the case for me. She won my heart. Um, and um, and
Kirsten
then
Dunst, Oscar nominee. I'm excited because I do love her as an actor,
mhm,
and I think she's pretty good in Power of the Dog. And I think Anjanou Ellis is good in King Richard, and Ariana DeBose in West Side Story. I think she's also really great, and I think she's probably the winner. What do you think?
yeah, I think that that's what I would guess. I mean, it is sort of fun that we have all these couples this year because you've got Jesse Plemons and Kirsten Dunst both being nominated, and you have
Mm,
Javier Bardem and
Penelope
Penelope
Cruz.
Cruz being nominated. It's like,
And you have like on-screen couples nominated too, right?
yeah,
Judy
that's
Dench and
true.
Karen Hines, and you have Anjanou Ellis with Will
That's
Smith.
true.
So yeah.
But yeah, I'm happy that she got nominated. I think that it was a really good performance. So I'm, you know, I think, um, I don't know. I'm not as excited about Ingenue Ellis. I thought it was fine, but I didn't really see that it was one of the best of the year to me. But but yeah, I think that Ariana DeBose is probably the most
The
likely.
winner, it does seem like the kind of performance that wins an Oscar. I mean, obviously Rita
Mhm.
Moreno won for that
Mhm.
role back in the 60s. And like a supporting actress in a musical is just like a great way to win an Oscar.
Mhm.
I feel like it's just kind of like that role that it's like steals the show, has a great musical number, and you can really I mean, just well, she has two great showcase scenes, the America number, which I think she's
Mhm.
fantastic in,
Mhm.
and the scene at the end, which is the very dramatic scene when she goes to the what do you call that, to the drugstore to try to find Tony, and she does a great job there as well. Makes me think of Anne Hathaway in Les Mis, or Catherine Zeta-Jones in
Right.
Chicago,
That's
that,
true.
or Jennifer Hudson in Dreamgirls. You get
That's
that
true.
is a very common type of Oscar win. So
Mhm.
I think she's probably the front runner.
Yeah, I think so too. So for actor in a supporting role, we have Ciarán Hinds in Belfast, Troy Kotzer in Coda, Jesse Plemons in The Power of the Dog, J.K. Simmons in Being the Ricardos, and Cody Smith McPhee in The Power of the Dog. So we've talked about kind of all of these movies.
Mhm.
Which one would you say is the favorite out of these?
To win,
Mhm.
it seems at this point that Cody Smith McPhee in Power of the Dog, he's won the most awards
Yeah.
so far, I think, from critics, and he seems like the front runner. That being said, I think if they really love Coda and it's going to win something, this could be the place to give it an award, and it could be Troy Kotsur that takes it, because from
Yeah,
what I haven't seen the movie, but from what I understand, it's a very emotional performance and a very kind of
mhm.
like the heart of the movie kind of thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if that ended up being the case.
I agree completely. And I've felt like Cody Smith McPhee has been very underrated for a long time.
Hmm.
He's taken very interesting roles and risks, and I don't know. I think he's a really good actor, uh, and so I'd be very happy for him if he were to win. Um, I mean, does anybody even remember J.K. Simmons in that movie? Like, what? I mean,
J.K.
he's a great
Simmons does.
actor.
It feels like one of those. It feels kind of like Judy Dench, like we love J.K. Simmons. Of course, we're gonna nominate him, or like one of those Meryl Streep kind of things, when they keep get nominated just because people love them.
I mean, I've
Um,
adored him ever since Juno, but I mean, I don't know. I just was
it's
like,
a
"What?"
strange category, I have to say. It looks a little strange. It feels
Yeah.
like maybe it's lacking a little bit of unexpectedness or pizzazz or something. Strong
Mhm.
performances for the most part. I think, but I don't know. Maybe
Mhm.
like something that could have bring a little bit more, you know, something to the table. Like I
Yeah.
don't know, like Mike Face in West Side Story would have been something a little bit exciting.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Even Jared Leto in House of Gucci would have been a train wreck, but it would have been like like something. Um,
Right, right. Do
it
you
was like
know
an
that
expected list
did I tell you that my theater got evacuated watching House of Gucci with 20 minutes left? And so no,
because of too much Italianness. There's too much.
probably Mamma mia. Yeah. Um, anyway, so let's talk about animated feature film. We have Encanto, Flea, Luca, The Mitchells vs. Machines, and Raya and the Last Dragon.
Hmm.
And I liked all of these films. I, um, I would have loved to have seen Belle nominated, but the Academy has a long history of
Struggling with
anti-anime
anime.
bias.
Yeah.
If it's
Although
not Studio Ghibli,
Studio Ghibli,
there's
yeah.
only one movie that has been nominated that's not
Oh,
Studio
really?
Ghibli that's anime, and that was Mirai, which was also
Mm.
by Hosada. So I thought maybe there was a chance, but they
Yeah.
probably started their campaign too late. G Kids did. It wasn't until February, the end of January, February. So that was
Yeah.
probably too late. But I mean, it was my second favorite, my third favorite movie of the year. I loved it.
And your
So
favorite animated movie of the year, I think it's probably Mitchell's versus
yeah,
Machines. Is that what
that was my favorite.
you're rooting for in this
I
category?
Yeah, I love that movie. I thought it had such heart. I thought it was really funny. I thought it had a great story. I interviewed the director, Mike Randa. I enjoyed it so much.
Hmm.
Uh, and I don't know, I've seen it the most of probably any movie of 2021. I keep watching it
Oh,
with I
wow.
watched it with my nieces, I watched it with my friends, I watched it with I got to
Yeah.
watch it in the theater at Animations Film. And that
Hmm.
was an
Oh,
incredible
right.
film festival and so much fun. I also got to see Luca and Raya
In the
at
big
Animation
screen.
is Film. So that was super fun, with panels and everything. And yeah, I mean, I think that Encanto is probably going to win.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think
yeah.
so as well. It just seems like it's such a big hit.
Mhm.
people, kids are into it. Everyone's singing that Bruno song. So it just feels like it's kind of in the air that it would be the one to take it.
And they're regretting that they didn't submit that song because I
Yeah.
don't think anybody had any idea that it would take off as much except for yours truly. Because
Oh,
when
you did.
yes, when we left the theater, you can ask Stanford. We left the theater. I was like, "That Don't Talk About Bruno is such a catchy song. That was great. That was the best song in the movie." And
Mm.
my friend and they were like, "What? You're crazy." And I'm like, "No, you see, I've never felt so
All
vindicated
right,
in my life."
Rachel called it. Everybody, Disney, if you're listening, you should get Rachel
Yes.
to tell you what song to submit for the Oscars. So,
I'm
I guess
available.
in case people don't know, what happens is that they have to submit what original songs to be considered, and they didn't, and they chose a different Encanto song,
Yeah.
which did get nominated, and I think could still win
Yeah.
given the competition and the situation. But I think even if it does win, it will feel a little bit like we actually this is kind of for Bruno, but you didn't submit it, so we're gonna give you a consolation prize still, but you kind of like messed up there.
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
maybe they'll get upset about it and they'll be like, if you didn't submit the song, we could have performed it at the Telecast and
I
now we
know.
can't, so we won't give you the award. That could also happen.
Yeah. Our
I agree. Encanto is probably the winner. I think if people watch the movies, I feel like maybe Flea would have a chance. It seems like the kind of movie that if enough people see it,
yeah.
could find like a respect for it.
And Neon has done a great job with that movie. Like I said, it has been in every festival.
Mhm.
It's part of they sent out to basically anybody who got, the Oscar screeners, not only um the screeners, but they sent a like a multi-pack with all of their movies for the year that you got.
Mhm.
So I don't know, they've done as good a job as you could do, I think. I mean, maybe they could have had it released wide a little bit earlier.
Mm.
But as far as the Academy voting, I think they promoted it just about as well as you could.
Yeah, I would say that, like we were talking about, international feature of its three nominations is probably the least likely to win. I would say animated is probably second least likely. I think documentary might be the one where that might be its prize, the documentary category.
Yeah, I mean it's up against Summer of Soul, which is I thought was just incredible. Um, and Attica is actually really good too. For once, the documentary category didn't.
You thought it was pretty
Yeah,
good.
yeah, they actually
Um,
did a good job this year.
yeah,
So it'll be
yeah.
interesting. I haven't seen Ascension. I've heard it's actually really good. Um, but um, but yeah, that is probably the one I would vote for as well. That
Hmm.
hopefully it'll get in for their for documentary. We're not going to talk about the shorts, but I was very sad that Us Again didn't get nominated for animated short subject. I thought it was my favorite thing that Disney produced in all of 2021, which is for
Mm,
me saying a lot because I had enjoyed a lot of their films. It was just
yeah.
absolutely beautiful and I loved it. And I don't know, I haven't seen all of the nominees, but I can't imagine they're better than that in my opinion. But anyway,
Well, we'll have to catch up with the shorts and see what's up.
yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about directing and then we'll do scripts real quick.
All right.
Okay, so directing is Kenneth Branagh, Belfast, Drive My Car, Ryusuke Hamagachi, Licorice Pizza, Paul Thomas Anderson, The Power of the Dog, Jane Campion, and West Side Story, Steven Spielberg.
A pretty close to what was expected. A
Yeah.
surprise-ish nomination for Ryusuke Hamaguchi for Drive My Car. Drive My Car did better than expected, but I think at least I was thinking that if it was going to show up somewhere other than international, directing was my hunch because there's been like an international director, a non-American
Hmm.
movie nominated for directing the last couple
That's
years.
true.
So it felt to me like if there was going to show up somewhere, it's going to be here. Obviously, it did even better than that. I guess the surprise was who was left out because of it. I expected that it would be either Kenneth Branagh or Steven Spielberg that didn't make it, but it ended up being Denis Villeneuve
Yeah.
who got left off the list. What do you think of that?
Well, I kind of wonder if they're thinking they will Peter Jackson it and
Oh,
and
like
nominate
part
him
two is
for part two.
when they're coming.
Yeah.
Well, now that he's been snubbed for the directing nomination this time around, if part two is great and people love it, then he would have a good shot at winning for that.
Mhm.
I guess
Yeah.
you're right.
Yeah. All right. Let me get to
What do you think
screen.
will win? Do you agree that
I
Jane
think,
Campion is
yeah.
probably
I
the
mean, I would
winner?
say it's pretty much a lock that she. I mean, I would be really surprised if she doesn't win.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, let me find the screenplays. They're way at
I
the
have
bottom.
screenplays here.
Okay, yeah,
Um,
go for
we
it.
have adapted screenplay. The nominees are Coda, Drive My Car, Dune, The Lost Daughter, and The Power of the Dog. What do you think? We have
Yeah,
talked about most of these movies already,
yeah.
so
I mean, I was pretty happy with this list. I mean, I was just happy that Being the Ricardos wasn't nominated. I'm not sure which one, if it would have been original or adapted. But
mhm.
I mean, I
A
was
little
just
surprising
glad.
since it's Aaron Sorkin, right, that they didn't nominate it, but
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
probably a good call.
Yeah. So I mean, I was kind of expecting to grumble about that. So yay, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think all of these do a good job. Dune is the only one of the books that I've read, although Netflix sent me the books for The Lost Daughter and The Power of the Dogs.
All right.
Where for Power of the Dog, it was really weird. They sent out 3 different packages, and the first one was just the book, no
Hmm.
code or DVD or whatever. And it wasn't until the very end of the month that they finally sent the actual movie. And I'm like, they're really confident in like in general, most of my critics friends aren't big readers
Hmm.
in my experience. I'm like, they're really confident on all on their reading. That was
Yeah,
funny.
they wanted you to read the book before
I
watching the
guess
movie, I guess.
so. They really did. Anyway, yeah, I feel like this will go to I think it will go to Coda, don't you think?
Oh, really? Interesting. I thought Power of the Dog, since it seems like it's one of the big players, that would have been my default. I
I
guess now
just
that you mentioned it, Coda feels like this could also be a place to give it an award if people wanna,
I feel
if
like a
people
lot
really
of
love it.
I feel like a lot of times the second place people end up getting for best picture end up getting a
The
screenplay.
screenplay. Yeah, that's a
Um
good call. Actually, I wouldn't be shocked if that happened. I would still put my money on Power of the Dog. I don't know
mm,
why I just had this thought, which is completely unrelated to this category just now, but I totally forgot when we were talking about supporting actress to mention that Ruth Negga didn't get nominated for Passing, which I thought I was a little sad about. I thought that was a great performance, and obviously, Passing clearly doesn't seem to be a movie that was on the Academy's radar
yeah.
as much because it didn't get any nominations. And it's a movie that I am a little mixed about, but I thought she was so great, and she had gotten nominated at SAG and at Golden Globe, so I thought she was
Mhm.
probably going to get in.
Mm.
And it's so disappointing because I think she's a great actress, and it was a truly great performance. But anyway,
Yeah, and she's been nominated before.
yeah,
I
that
mean, we
too.
didn't really talk about, but don't you think that Power of the Dog is the favorite to win best
To
picture?
win Best Picture. That's right. We didn't talk about that. I think at this point it looks like it. I suppose it's between Power of the Dog and Belfast.
Mm.
But Belfast doesn't seem to me like it's making all that much noise, right?
Mhm.
So I don't know. So I would say Power of the Dog would be my guess at this point. We'll have to see what
Yeah.
happens.
Well, original screenplay is Belfast, Don't Look Up, King Richard, Licorice Pizza, and The Worst Person in the World. So that was a nomination
Another
for the
surprise.
worst person in the world, which I thought was fun. I enjoyed that movie.
I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard good things.
It has a lot of nudity for me.
Oh yeah.
Very strong in that. But it's still, again, to use my word, they had really good chemistry and it was cute.
All right, all right. That's good to know. I'm
Uh,
excited about that. So I would have to assume that out of these nominees, Belfast is the front runner to win. I think it's a pretty dismal screenplay, so maybe it's because I'm biased, but I'm holding out hope that maybe Licorice Pizza, because Paul Thomas Anderson is such a respected director, and maybe it'll be the place where they give it an award because they
mhm.
clearly like the movie because it's Best Picture, Director, Writing. Didn't get that many nominations, so maybe not. But I would love if that happened, and it feels to me like sometimes they do that. Like I remember when Spike Jonze won for Her in screenplay, and then I don't know, something like Eternal Sunshine. Sometimes the screenplay
Mm,
goes to like a movie that's a little artsy, like a little more in that
mhm.
respected auteur direction.
That's true. I remember when we were talking about Almodovar, the
Yeah,
fact that
that's
he
true. He won
won.
for that as well. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm not crazy. Like, I'm not in love with any of these screenplays. I mean,
mhm.
probably my favorite's probably The Worst Person in the World as far as screenplays.
And that would
Um,
actually be a very interesting win if it did manage to, this
mhm.
foreign Norwegian movie that comes out of nowhere and gets your screenplay award. That would be kind of cool, but probably not going to happen. I don't know.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it would be a big surprise, but yeah, you never. There's usually one or two surprises every Oscars. We're like,
That's
oh,
true.
didn't see that. So, usually you have a bad ballot if you just go with in your office pool. If you just go with all the obvious ones,
Mm.
then you're unlikely to win. You need to take a couple risks. Those are the
Yeah.
people that win, in my opinion. That's my strategy, at
hmm
least.
hmm
Uh-huh. But
Um,
yeah, there's lots of other categories, but we don't have time to talk about all of them. But yeah, it'll be fun to see who wins. And
Is there anything specific that feels like in all of the kind of technical categories, I expect Dune to be kind of the big
yeah,
winner of sound, visual effects, makeup, production design, that kind of thing.
hmm
So I wouldn't be surprised if Dune becomes one of those movies that gets the most Oscars but doesn't get Best Picture. I feel like
yeah.
that has happened a
It
couple
could
of
be
times.
this year's Mad Max Fury
Mad
Road.
Max Fury Road is a great example of that, or like
hmm
Gravity, that happened that year as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was happy to see Tick Tick Boom get two.
hmm
Um, and what was there anything else? Parallel Mothers got best score, which I thought was very well
Interesting.
deserved.
I have to say, The French Dispatch, that didn't get anything, which
Oh
I
yeah.
thought I wasn't expecting it to, but I was still disappointed. I mean, I wasn't expecting
hmm
it to get anything major, but I thought that certainly, production. How do you not nominate that for production design and
Yeah.
the score? It's Alexandre Desplat, who's kind of a favorite of the Academy. I was surprised he didn't get it.
Yeah.
So I was a little disappointed
True.
by that because I really liked that movie. But
But I was happy to see Coming to America get
oh,
makeup
getting
and
makeup.
hairstyling, which was very deserved. And I mean, it's not like a great movie, but it was very well done. The costuming and the makeup and hair were
And
very
we
good.
didn't talk about the big surprise of the day, which was that Lady Gaga didn't get nominated for House of Gucci. How did
Yeah.
we even talk about that? House of Gucci only got Best Makeup, when it was, I think, some people were expecting it to get more. Jared Leto didn't get nominated, and Lady
hmm
Gaga, who had become kind of the front runner lately. People were
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, maybe it'll be Lady Gaga." Then she's out of the picture, so
House
that's why the Best Actress category is so wide open.
Yeah. House of Gucci didn't even get costume design, which is surprising because it's all
Yeah,
about fashion.
yeah,
But yeah, no, it was definitely surprising. I mean, I guess it's kind of comforting that you can't necessarily campaign your way into a nomination. It's not
yeah.
we're not it's not that bought and paid for these days. So
Yeah. I guess so.
I mean, I thought she
So
did a
yeah,
pretty good job, but
yeah. I thought she
anyway.
was good, but I mean, it's such a weird year for Best Actress. I guess that's the category to keep an eye on, like something crazy. If Rachel is right and something crazy and unusual does happen at the Oscars every year, I think Best Actress is probably the most likely place to happen.
Mhm.
But there could be more than one crazy thing that happens
Yeah.
too, so you never know.
It'd be interesting. Well, thanks for doing this. This was a lot of fun. I always enjoy chatting with you and talking about the movies, and so appreciate you coming and doing this.
Totally.
And if people want to follow you, how can they follow your content?
You can follow me on Twitter at CocoHitsNY. And obviously, you can also listen to the Criterion Project, which is the podcast that Rachel and I do together, in which we talk about movies in the Criterion channel and the Criterion Collection. Our latest episode was about All About Eve, a
Mhm.
classic with Betty Davis, great movie. And our next episode will be like Rachel said, right now it's planning to be Imitation of Life, the Douglas Sirk melodrama from the 50s with guest Jose Solis, who will also give us his take on the new West Side Story, we hope.
Yeah, it'll be super fun. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. And also check out the Hallmarkies podcast. Got lots of fun stuff going on over there. And if please like this, if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. Appreciate that so much. Also, if you are listening on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that. Also have the merch store and Patreon group. All that information's in the description. So thanks so much, everybody, and we'll talk to y'all later. Bye.
Bye.